Stories found between midnight and morning. Archive 004. The last train home. Status: unresolved. Recovered: 12:47 a.m. Source: passenger account, partial. Location: city transit system. Redacted. The last train was supposed to arrive at 12:14 a.m. It arrived on time. That's the part I keep coming back to. If it had been late, if the platform had already felt strange, if there had been some clear point where the night stopped being normal, I think I would trust my memory more. But the station was exactly what it always was. Bright in the wrong places. Dirty in ways no one notices anymore. Electronic ads flickering above a row of plastic seats no one wanted to sit in. The smell of brake dust, damp concrete, and something old trapped in the tunnel walls. It was a Tuesday, or maybe early Wednesday by then. I had worked late. Nothing unusual. No drinking, no drugs. No reason to question my own perception except the obvious one. It was after midnight, and the city always feels thinner after midnight. Not empty, just less defended. The station had maybe 6 people on the platform when I got there. A guy in a reflective vest staring at his phone. A woman with a grocery cart and 2 overstuffed bags. A couple standing too far apart to still be together, but too close to have actually separated. And a man at the far end of the platform in a dark coat. He stood beyond the yellow strip. Not dangerously close, just close enough to look deliberate. I noticed him because he wasn't doing anything. No phone, no pacing, no looking down the tunnel. Just standing there, facing the tracks like he already knew when the train would arrive. The board overhead read, "Downtown, 12:14 a.m." Then the train came in. The usual rush of wind first, then lights, then the silver body of it pulling into the station with that tired metallic scream trains always make when they brake too hard. Nothing wrong with it, nothing dramatic. The doors opened. People got off. A few got on. I stepped into the second car from the front and sat on the bench seat near the middle, across from the doors. Not because I had a system, just habit. That spot lets you see most of the car without looking like you're watching people. There were maybe 8 of us inside. A student-looking guy asleep against the window with his backpack still on. A woman in scrubs reading messages on her phone. 2 kids in black hoodies sharing 1 pair of earbuds. An older man with a folded newspaper he wasn't actually reading. And near the end of the car, the man from the platform. Same dark coat, same posture. Seated now, hands folded, looking straight ahead. I didn't think anything of him. He was just the kind of person you notice because he gives you nothing else to notice. The doors shut. The train pulled out. For the first few stops, everything was normal. Announcements clear, stations familiar. The overhead digital strip listing each stop in the correct order. People getting on, people getting off. The city outside the windows, when we surfaced, looked exactly like it should. Graffiti, maintenance lights. So did the tunnel walls and station lights, and the reflections of tired people trying not to look at one another. I checked my phone at 12:21. No missed messages. Battery at 18%. Enough to get home, I figured. I leaned back, listened to the hum of the car, and let my attention drift. That's the thing about public transit. Once you know your route, you stop tracking it consciously. You trust the sequence. This station, then the next, then your stop. You don't monitor it minute by minute because you don't need to. That trust is probably why it took me longer than it should have to realize something was wrong. The first thing I noticed was the announcement. We pulled into a station I knew well. I'd used it for years. The sign on the tiled wall was visible through the window before the train stopped. White letters on blue. I read it automatically. Then the overhead speaker said a different name. Then wildly different. Close enough that I almost let it pass. But wrong. Like someone mixing up two streets in the same neighborhood. A small error. The kind a tired conductor might make. A few people looked up. No one reacted. The train doors opened. A man in a business coat stepped out. Two teenagers got on. The doors shut again. The train moved. I looked up at the digital route strip. It showed the correct station name, not the one the speaker had announced. I told myself that settled it. Audio glitch. Wrong file triggered. Nothing more. Then, at the next station, the opposite happened. The speaker announced the correct stop. The wall sign outside the train did not match it. I sat up a little. This time I checked the station map above the door. The printed route line with its neat colored dots and labeled stops. We should have been 3 stops from mine. Instead, the station name outside wasn't anywhere on the map. Not hidden, not partially obscured, just absent. The doors opened. No one got on. No one got off. I looked around the car to see if anyone else had noticed. The woman in scrubs was still reading her phone. The kid in the backpack was still asleep. The older man still held the newspaper open to the same page. And the man in the dark coat sat exactly as before, hands folded, looking straight ahead. The doors closed. The train moved on. I checked my phone again. 12:29 a.m. I opened the transit app. At first it buffered, then loaded. My line showed active service. No delays, no reroutes, no alerts. The little train icon representing the line moved along the usual track map exactly as it should. According to the app, I was approaching the station before mine. According to the map above the subway door, I was too. According to the names outside the windows, I wasn't anywhere I recognized. I felt the first real pressure of unease then. Not panic, not fear, just the sensation that 2 systems I trusted had stopped agreeing with the world in front of me. At the next stop, the student with the backpack woke up suddenly, looked around as if he'd forgotten where he was, then got off without checking the station name. The doors closed behind him. The train pulled out. The car felt larger with one less person in it. That's another thing about trains after midnight. They get quieter in layers. One passenger leaves and you hear the lights more clearly. Another leaves and suddenly the wheels against the tracks sound too loud. The city recedes one person at a time. By 12:34, the couple was gone. The older man with the newspaper got off at a station with no name I knew. The woman in scrubs moved to another car between stops without looking at anyone. I watched her stand, walk through the connecting door, and disappear. The 2 kids in hoodies were gone at some point too, though I couldn't remember seeing them leave. Then it was just me, and the man in the dark coat. Still 3 doors down, still seated, still facing forward, The train entered a longer stretch of tunnel. No station lights, no maintenance alcoves, no wall markings. Just darkness beyond the windows and our own reflection laid over it. I caught sight of myself in the glass, then of the seats behind me. Then, reflected farther down, the man in the coat. Except in the reflection, he wasn't looking forward anymore. He was looking directly at me. I turned immediately. He was still seated the same way he had been the whole time. Hands folded, head forward, motionless. I stared longer than I should have. He did not react. The overhead speaker crackled. Static first, then the calm, automated voice. Next stop, last stop. I frowned. That wasn't possible. This line didn't terminate before my station. I looked up at the digital strip above the door. Every stop had gone blank. No names, no route markers. Just a single pulsing message in amber letters. Stand clear of the doors. The train began to slow. Outside the window, lights appeared ahead. Not the bright tiled lights of a normal station. Dimmer than that. Sparse. Uneven. As if only part of the platform was lit. I leaned forward to see the sign as we pulled in. There was one, but it wasn't a station name. Just a black panel with white letters. 2 words. Last stop. The doors opened. No one was waiting on the platform. No one got off. No one got on. And from across the car, for the first time since I'd noticed him, the man in the dark coat stood up. The man in the dark coat stood up slowly, not abruptly, not like someone rushing for the doors, just deliberate, as if the train had arrived exactly when he expected it to. I stayed seated. For a moment, I thought he might walk toward me. Instead, he walked toward the connecting door to the next car. Not toward me, toward the rear of the car. His shoes made almost no sound on the floor. The platform outside remained empty. No transit workers, no passengers waiting. Just that dim lighting stretching along concrete and tile that looked older than any station I'd seen on this line. The doors stayed open longer than usual. 5 seconds, 10, 15. No announcement, no chime warning they were about to close. Just the open doorway and the empty platform beyond it. The man passed through the connecting door between cars. The glass panels slid closed behind him. For a moment, I could see his silhouette moving through the next car. Then the train doors slid shut. The car jolted forward. We left the platform. I expected the overhead announcement, the usual recorded voice. Stand clear of the doors, or the next station name. Instead, there was only static. A brief hiss through the speakers, then silence. The train accelerated into the tunnel. I turned back to the window in front of me to watch the platform disappear. The black sign with the white letters was still visible. Last stop. But as the train pulled farther away, the letters flickered. For a moment, they looked different, like something had replaced them. Then the tunnel swallowed the view. The car lights hummed faintly overhead. I realized then how quiet the train had become. No music leaking from headphones. No conversations. No shifting of bags or shoes scraping against the floor. Just the mechanical rhythm of the wheels. Metal on metal. Steady. Repetitive. I leaned forward and checked the digital route strip again. Still blank. No station names. No map. Just the amber message repeating across the display. Stand clear of the doors. I opened the transit app on my phone again. The connection took longer this time. The signal bars flickered between 1 and none. When the map finally loaded, something felt wrong immediately. The little train icon that represented my line was gone. Not delayed, not stopped. Gone. I zoomed out. The rest of the network looked normal. Other lines moving, stations active, service alerts for construction downtown. But my line, the one I was currently riding, simply wasn't there. No route line, no icon, no schedule. Like the system had removed it entirely. The tunnel outside the window looked different now. Not dramatically, just unfinished. The walls were bare concrete instead of the tiled surfaces most of the active line used. Maintenance lights appeared farther apart. Some flickered weakly. Some were completely dark. We passed one service alcove where a ladder leaned against the wall. The metal rungs were rusted, the kind of corrosion you see in places that haven't been maintained for years. The train didn't slow, didn't stop, just continued forward. I checked the time. 12:41 a.m. That didn't feel right. We had been moving longer than that, longer than the stretch between stations usually allowed. Then I noticed something else, the reflection in the window across from me. At first, I thought it was just my own face. Then I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned quickly. The car was still empty. The seats, the doors, the floor. No one. I looked back at the window. My reflection stared back. And 3 seats down, the man in the dark coat was sitting again. I froze. He hadn't walked past me. The only way between cars was the connecting door, and that door had remained closed since he left. But he was back, but 3 seats toward the front of the car, hands folded, facing forward, not moving. My stomach tightened. I stood slowly, not because I planned to confront him, just because sitting suddenly felt like the wrong choice. The train rocked gently beneath my feet. I took 1 step toward the center pole. The man did not react, did not look up, did not acknowledge me. The connecting door to the next car was closed. The small window in it showed only darkness beyond. No passengers, no movement, just the faint reflection of the fluorescent lights. The overhead speaker crackled again. This time the voice returned, calm, clear. Next stop, downtown. That made no sense. Downtown was behind us. Several stops behind us. I looked out the windows again. The tunnel had widened. Lights appeared ahead. The train began to slow. The brakes screamed briefly as we approached the platform. This station looked more normal, brighter, clean white tiles along the walls, a transit map mounted on a pillar. The sign on the wall read, Downtown Terminal. But the font was wrong. The transit system had changed signage years ago. Newer fonts, digital panels. This sign looked older, like something from decades ago. The doors opened. Still no one on the platform. No cleaning crews, just empty space. I stepped closer to the doorway but didn't get off. Something about the platform felt unfinished. like a set built to resemble a station instead of an actual one. The tile lines didn't quite match. The lights hummed too loudly. Across the car, the man in the dark coat finally moved. He stood again, slow, unhurried. He stepped toward the door nearest him, but instead of exiting onto the platform, he turned and walked toward me. My throat tightened. He moved past the empty seats, never grabbing the center poles for balance, until he was standing just a few feet away, still not looking directly at me, still not acknowledging my presence. The train doors chimed, a warning this time. Finally, the man stepped past me, close enough that I could smell something faint on his coat. Not sweat, not cologne, just cold air, like fabric that had been outside for a long time. He continued through the connecting door in the rear of the car. The glass panel swung slowly closed. The platform outside remained empty. The doors shut again. The train pulled away from the station. I turned around immediately and looked through the connecting door window. The next car was empty, completely empty. No passengers, no dark coat, no movement at all. I stepped closer to the door, pressed my face near the glass. Still nothing, just rows of empty seats. The overhead speaker activated again. The voice sounded different now, quieter, almost uncertain. Next stop, the announcement paused, long enough that I thought it had failed. Then the voice finished the sentence, "Your stop." I felt my stomach drop. That wasn't possible. My stop? Where is my stop? We should have already arrived. The train began slowing again. Outside the window, lights appeared. But these weren't platform lights. They were smaller, dimmer, industrial, like the kind used in maintenance depot. The train rolled forward into a wide open area of track. Concrete walls. No platform. No signs. Just a single metal door set into the wall ahead. Above it hung a black sign. White letters. 2 words. Last stop. The train came to a complete halt. The doors opened. Cold air drifted into the car. And from somewhere in the next car, I heard the man in the dark coat speak for the first time. One quiet sentence. "You missed yours." My heart jumped and fluttered. When did he come back into this car? The train doors remained open. Cold air drifted into the car. It smelled different than the tunnel air we had passed through earlier. Not the usual mix of dust, oil, and metal. This air smelled stale, older, like something trapped in a sealed room that had only just been opened. I stayed where I was, halfway to the door, holding on to the center pole, waiting. The train did not move. The overhead lights hummed softly. Behind me, the man in the dark coat said nothing else. He just stood there. The silence stretched long enough that I began to question whether I had actually heard him speak at all. The metal door in the concrete wall outside the train sat directly across from the open doors. Gray, industrial. The kind of maintenance door you see in service corridors. Above it, the black sign still read, "Last stop." No other markings, no station name, no transit logo. Just those 2 words. I leaned forward slightly and looked down the length of the train. Every car behind mine was dark. Not completely black, but unlit. The lights inside them were off. The windows showed only shadow. And then I noticed something else. The platform wasn't really a platform, just a strip of concrete along the track. Too narrow, no safety markings, no yellow line. It looked like the unfinished edge of a service area. The doors were still open, waiting. Something about the stillness made the train feel temporary, like it wasn't meant to stay here long, like it was giving me time. I stepped closer to the doorway. The air outside felt colder. The floor of the train vibrated faintly under my shoes. Not movement, just the quiet idle of a machine that hadn't shut off yet. Behind me, the connecting door creaked softly. I turned. The man in the dark coat was standing there, closer than before. His face was still partly shadowed by the lights above him, but I could see more of it now. Pale, expressionless, not threatening, just blank. He looked at me, not aggressively, not urgently, just watching. "You missed yours," he repeated. His voice sounded the same as before, flat, calm, like someone stating an obvious fact. I swallowed. "What stop is this?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he tilted his head slightly toward the open door beside me, not pointing, not gesturing, just a subtle movement, as if suggesting something. The train doors chimed again, a soft, warning tone. I looked back toward the platform. Nothing had changed. The concrete strip remained empty. The gray door remained closed. But something about the air beyond the train made the car feel smaller, more confined, like the train was no longer the safe place to be. I stepped down onto the concrete. My shoes echoed louder than they should have. The surface was colder than the train floor, hard, unfinished. The train doors stayed open behind me. I turned back once. The man in the coat had not moved, still standing inside the car, still watching. For a moment, I considered getting back on, sitting down, waiting for the train to leave again. But the thought passed quickly. Something told me the train wasn't meant to take me anywhere anymore. The concrete corridor stretched left and right along the track. Dim maintenance lights hung from the ceiling at uneven intervals, each one casting a small circle of pale light. Beyond those circles, darkness. I walked toward the metal door. Each step echoed through the space. The train behind me hummed quietly. I reached the door. The handle was cold, metal, heavier than it looked. I hesitated, then pulled. The door opened easily. Beyond it was a narrow stairwell, concrete steps leading upward. A single fluorescent tube light flickered above the landing. The air smelled even older here. Dust, paint, something damp hidden behind the walls. I glanced back toward the train again. The doors were still open. The man in the coat still stood inside. But now he was looking past me, toward the stairwell, waiting. The train doors chimed again, louder this time, a final warning. I stepped into the stairwell. The metal door swung shut behind me with a hollow thud. The train's hum faded slightly through the concrete walls. For a moment, I just stood there, listening. The stairwell was silent. Then, from somewhere above me, I heard footsteps. Slow, measured, descending the stairs toward me. Not rushing, not stumbling, just walking down one step at a time. I froze. The footsteps continued. Step, pause, step, pause, coming closer. I turned slowly and pulled the door open again. The train was still there, the doors still open, the car lights still humming, but the man in the dark coat was gone. And at that exact moment, the train doors closed. The train pulled forward and disappeared into the tunnel, leaving me alone in the stairwell, with the footsteps still coming down toward me.
The footsteps continued down the stairs, slow, measured, each step landing with a dull echo against the concrete walls. I didn't move. The stairwell felt too narrow suddenly, too enclosed. The fluorescent light above me flickered once, then steadied. The steps kept coming. One. Pause. Another. Pause. Whoever was above me wasn't rushing. They weren't running. Just descending at the same calm pace. The kind of pace someone uses when they already know where they're going and who they're going to find when they get there. I backed up slowly until my shoulder touched the metal door behind me. Instinct told me to open it, to get back onto the train. But I already knew that wasn't possible. The train was gone. I had watched it leave. The last train home. The footsteps reached the landing above me. They stopped. The silence that followed felt heavier than the sound. I looked up. The upper part of the stairwell was darker. The light there had burned out long ago. Only shadow. For a few seconds, nothing moved. Then a shape appeared at the top step. A figure stepping into the dim edge of the flickering light. A man. Dark coat. Hands folded loosely in front of him. The same man who had been on the train with me. He looked exactly the same. The same posture. The same still expression. But something about him felt different now. Less distant, more certain. He stood there for a moment, looking down at me. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I said the first thing that came to mind. "How did you get here?" My voice sounded smaller in the stairwell than it had on the train. The man tilted his head slightly, the same motion I had seen before. "You got off," he said. His voice was calm, like he was explaining something simple. "You weren't supposed to." I swallowed. "What is this place?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped down one more stair, then another, not coming toward me quickly, just closing the distance slowly. "You missed your stop," he repeated. "I know," I said. "That's why I got off." He reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped a few steps away from me. Now the light above us fell fully across his face. It looked ordinary, completely ordinary. No scars, no strange expressions. Just a man you might pass on any subway platform. But his eyes didn't blink. Not once. "This stop isn't for you," he said. A vibration passed faintly through the floor beneath my feet. Not the rumble of the train,
something heavier, something farther away. I glanced back at the door behind me. "Another train will come?" I asked. The man looked at the door, then back at me. "No," he said. The word hung in the air. Then how do I leave? For the first time since I'd seen him, the man actually looked uncertain. Not confused, just thoughtful. Like the question itself hadn't occurred to him before. "You don't," he said finally.
Before I could respond, a distant rumble rolled through the walls. Louder this time. Closer. The stairwell light flickered again. Once. Twice. The man turned his head slightly toward the sound, as if listening. Then he stepped aside, gesturing faintly toward the stairs above. "You can try," he said. I didn't wait. I moved past him and climbed the steps 2 at a time. The air grew colder as I went up. The stairwell turned once, then again. Finally, it ended at another metal door, a push bar instead of a handle this time. I shoved it open. Cold night air rushed in. I stumbled out onto a sidewalk. The city looked normal. Street lights glowing, cars passing. A row of storefronts across the street. I turned around immediately. Behind me was a brick wall. No door, no stairwell, no station entrance. Just a blank wall covered in old posters and peeling paint. I stood there for a long time, trying to understand what I had just come through. Eventually, I checked my phone. The time read 12:16 a.m., only 2 minutes after the train had arrived. The transit app loaded normally. My line was active again. No delays, no alerts. According to the schedule, the last train had just left the station where I boarded. Everything looked normal. I walked 3 blocks before I found a station, an elevated station and track. A train was leaving as I arrived, silver cars flashing through the lights. I counted them as they went by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then one more car. An extra car, older than the others, its windows dark. And through one of them, I saw the man in the dark coat sitting alone, looking straight ahead, waiting for the next stop. End of record status. Unresolved. Archive. Less distant. More certain. He stood there for a moment, looking down at me. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I said the first thing that came to mind. "How did you get here?" My voice sounded smaller in the stairwell than it had on the train. The man tilted his head slightly, the same motion I had seen before. "You got off," he said. His voice was calm, like he was explaining something simple. "You weren't supposed to." I swallowed. "What is this place?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped down one more stair, then another. Not coming toward me quickly, just closing the distance slowly. "You missed your stop," he repeated. "I know," I said. "That's why I got off." He reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped a few steps away from me. Now the light above us fell fully across his face. It looked ordinary, completely ordinary. No scars, no strange expressions, just a man you might pass on any subway platform. But his eyes didn't blink, not once. "This stop isn't for you," he said. A vibration passed faintly through the floor beneath my feet,
Not the rumble of the train. Something heavier. Something farther away. I glanced back at the door behind me. "Another train will come?" I asked. The man looked at the door, then back at me. "No," he said. The word hung in the air. Then how do I leave? For the first time since I'd seen him, the man actually looked uncertain. Not confused, just thoughtful. Like the question itself hadn't occurred to him before. "You don't," he said finally.